Hello, in today's video I'm counting down the top 10 cities or towns in the state of Arizona to buy a second home. And when I'm talking about a second home, I'm meaning either a vacation home where you come to occasionally on weekends or holidays or a few weeks or months out of the year to have fun with your friends and your family, or a second home meaning a seasonal residence where you live part of the year in one place, say in the summertime, and part of the year in a second place, say in the wintertime. So today's video will have the list of the top best 10 towns in Arizona to buy a second home. My name is Dickenson and the channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I'll teach you everything there is to know about living in the northern half of Arizona. I am also a real estate agent, so if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home in Arizona, please reach out to me and give me a call, text, or an email. My contact information is always in the description below. So I want to start by saying I did a video similar to this about 4 years ago, and it was about the top Arizona towns to buy a cabin, but I've decided to expand it a little bit because not everybody looking for a second home or a vacation home is looking for a cabin. You may be looking for a place by the lake or a place in a town where you could play golf and enjoy the nice Arizona winters. So I expanded it out a little bit. There have also been some things that have changed since I made the video about the top vacation cabin towns. So you're going to want to listen to the video all the way to the end because I have a whole bunch of new information that wasn't in the video I published 4 or 5 years ago. I'm starting the list with number 10 as Tucson, Arizona. Now, Tucson is the most populated city in my list today with a population of 541,000. It does have a pretty diverse population. I included this city in the list because the cost of living is very reasonable and housing prices are very good. Now, to me, I look at Tucson prices and I think, wow, it's so inexpensive to buy a home in Tucson. Now, some of you may not agree if you're living someplace else, but I did include Tucson because of the nice winter temperatures and lots of things to do in the winter time. If you want to play golf or if you want to go hiking, there's lots of stuff like that to do in Tucson. The cost of living index is 97. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the cost of living index throughout this video. What it is there is a national average of about 100, which means like all across the nation, 100 is the average to live. You'll see a lot of the towns I'm talking about today will be above that average, and there are a couple of them below the average, like Tucson at 97. Now, also, I get a lot of this information on the video at a couple of websites. One is called bestplaces.net. Those are ones that have come up with this cost of living index, and there's another site called niche.com that gives a lot of information on the towns, and this video is made up mostly from information from those two sites and also from my own personal experience and opinions. I have to say some of this is opinion oriented, of course. It's my video, my opinion, so you might not agree, but that's because it's my opinion. I have lived in the state of Arizona since 1970, so that gives me a lot of experience going to and traveling to and visiting these Arizona towns. So let me proceed on with some of the data about housing costs in Tucson. Now, right now, it's Labor Day weekend 2024, but the median list price of homes in Tucson, now these are homes not including condos and townhouses, but the median list price is $410,000, and the price per square foot, $231, which I think makes it the very lowest cost to buy a home on this entire list. Now, the one drawback, or one of the drawbacks of living in Tucson, is it does have a pretty high crime rate compared to all of the towns on my list, and actually higher than Arizona in general. So I got the crime data again from my bestplaces.net. It says the national violent crime index is about 22, and the national index for property crime is about 35. So Tucson has a violent crime index of 37.5, which is pretty high. It's about not quite twice the national average, and property crime 83.2, which is very high. Now, I do know property crime in Tucson is very high. My daughter lives in Tucson and has since she was a student at the University of Arizona, and if she would leave her bike untethered for 10 seconds, it would be stolen. She's probably had 3 bikes stolen, many things stolen. So I think theft is probably the biggest concern about crime in Tucson, but just something to consider. Higher crime in Tucson than a lot of the other towns that we're talking about, and then probably much higher than the state of Arizona in general. The climate, though, is very nice, although it is dry. 12 inches of rain average annually. Snow, no snow, maybe less than an inch of snow occasionally. The January low in Tucson is 39 degrees, which is makes it a very attractive destination for people who are seasonal or are coming from other parts of the country in colder climates and they want to live in Tucson for the summertime. January low 39, July high 100 degrees. Record high in Tucson is only 117, and I say only because wait, it's going to be higher in a couple of the other towns that we talk about. The elevation is about 2,490 feet above sea level. Now, going to number 9, I've selected Lake Havasu City. Now, there are a couple of reasons I selected Lake Havasu City. One is because it's on the California border. So if you're coming from the West Coast and you live in California, Oregon, or Washington, it makes it easy to get to if you want to use it as a vacation home. And because it's next to Lake Havasu, and so there's all sorts of fun stuff to do if you're into lakes. Now, I used to really be into boating. I had boats for years, but as you get older, the cost to maintain a boat and the work to maintain a boat is just too much for me. But when you're a younger person owning a boat, and you don't even have to own a boat, you could rent a boat, or maybe your friends have a boat, or maybe you just want to hang out at the beach. But Lake Havasu City has all sorts of opportunities to go boating, water skiing, jet skiing, fishing, all that fun boating activity in Lake Havasu City. So that's why I put it on the list, because it's a popular vacation spot. Now, population is not that crowded, only 58,000 residents. Cost of living at 100.1, so almost exactly at the national average. Median list price for homes, $627,000, and median price per square foot, $344, which to me seems very reasonable. Crime, actually, not bad. The crime index is 11.7 for violent crime and 32.6 for property crime, which makes it one of the lowest on the list, about tying with Sedona. Actually has a little less than Sedona, but some of these stats, when your town population is extremely small, is a little bit difficult to measure. So I'll just put that out here. That temperatures, though, in the summertime, like Lake Havasu City, is very, very hot. The average high in July is 109 degrees, but that's nothing compared to the record high of 128 degrees in Lake Havasu City. But the low in January is only 42, so if you're going there in the wintertime, or if you're going to be in the lake the entire time, you might not care that it is so blistering hot. The average rainfall is 5 inches a year, which makes it an extremely dry area. No snow, and the elevation in Lake Havasu City is 738 above sea level, so that can give you a little bit of idea about why it is so hot and dry in Lake Havasu. Okay, number 9 on my list is Heber-Overgaard. Now, Heber-Overgaard is kind of on the eastern border, kind of central part of Arizona, but on the east, in the White Mountains, very close to Show Low. There are a couple of reasons that it is on the list. One is it's really affordable and a nice place to buy a cabin, but if you are afraid of snow and cold weather, this might not be a place for you. Now, the cost of living is very affordable in Heber-Overgaard at 97.9, so it's actually lower than the national average. Population is showing at only 3,000. It is a very, very small town. So Heber-Overgaard, the two of them are like right next to each other, but slight differences in the median list price. The sales data that I'm getting for this video, I got from my local title company. If you go to Best Places or niche.com, it's going to be way behind on the average or median list price. So these are coming from the my local title company. So the median list price in Heber, I'm seeing at $579,000, but in Overgaard, it's $450,000. It's probably got something to do with the size, average size, because in Heber, price per square foot is showing at $298, and in Overgaard, $309 per square foot. Now, there is some crime in there that's a little bit disturbing. It's actually just slightly above the national average. Violent crime at 25, property crime at 38.7, a little bit above the national average. Rainfall average 17 inches, snow 28 inches. July high at 85 makes it a really nice place to go in the summertime. It's actually quite a popular place for people who live in Phoenix to have cabins in Heber-Overgaard and go up quite a bit during the summer. The January low, I said, is a 20. The elevation there at 6627, so not quite 7,000 foot above sea level, but it's a beautiful place for a lot of great summer activities. Nice ponderosa pines, lots of places to go hiking, maybe ride your off-road vehicle. So a nice place to explore, Heber-Overgaard, making my list at number 8 for best places to buy second property in Arizona. Okay, so now I'm going to number 7, and I'm putting Mormon Lake at number 7. Now, for those of you who have watched my best places to buy a cabin in Arizona, I had Mormon Lake at number 1, but there are a couple of things that have changed since I published that video that made it go a little bit lower in the ranking. One, of course, now I've expanded the criteria of my video to include places that you might want to live seasonal. Mormon Lake is actually not that great to live in the wintertime because it gets a lot of snow and is very cold. But the reason I kind of put it lower on my list is in about 2022, Aramark went and bought out the Mormon Lake Lodge and some of the areas at Mormon Lake Lodge, and then they shut down a lot of the very popular activities. There used to be the Two Broke for Sturgis motorcycle rally, which was in Mormon Lake for about 25 years. Aramark said there was too much liability for that and moved it to Winslow, and then a lot of the roping, rodeo, horse type stuff got canceled. Now they may be bringing it back, but the last I heard, there were not the big rodeo events that made Mormon Lake so popular. So a lot of the activities that people went to kind of been shut down. Also, the lot fees on the mobile home park, I heard, went up drastically. So some of those things make it not quite as attractive. And then the other thing is it's a teeny town, and it's not that many homes for sale. So again, these median prices I'm going to give you are very difficult to pin down because it's a tiny amount of homes being sold there every year. But the population is being showed as 90. Now I'm going to say that 90 is going to be permanent year-long residents. I actually lived at Mormon Lake in the 90s and again in 2018. Had a place there for years, but I sold it during the pandemic. It is a quite beautiful mountain town, and hard to live full-time, I have to say. I live there full-time. It's difficult as a single person to live there full-time. If you have a family, it might be different, but it does get a little bit isolated if you're living there alone. So the elevation of Mormon Lake is 7146 above sea level. That puts it at the highest elevation in my list. The other thing about population, it says 90, but when you drive into town, there's a sign that says Mormon Lake Village population 50 to 5,000, and that would be because there's a lot more seasonal residents in the summertime that actually live in the campground all summertime. So keep that in mind about population. Very small. 90 is probably the full-time residents that live at Mormon Lake. Now the cost of living index they have at 116. Median list price $430,000. It's going to be difficult, like I said. There's probably only like 10, 12 of these places that sell every single year, so hard to get good data on such a small sample. Median list price $416. Now crime, interesting. They have violent crime at 22.3. which is about at the national level average, and property crime at 40.8. Now, I think that violent crime is skewed because a few years back, there was at the Two Broke for Sturgis event, there was a triple homicide and a suicide. There was a fight that broke out, and a guy killed his wife and two other people and himself. This is a very rare event at Mormon Lake. Like I say, I lived there I had a cabin there for 20 years. Very rare to see violent crime, and I think that one event skewed the data because most of the time I didn't even lock my doors at Mormon Lake. So we're going to talk about climate, rainfall about 21 inches a year, snow up to 80 inches a year, July high about 82, January low 15. It does get very cold in the wintertime, especially around December and January, so that is probably pretty accurate. So number 6 at my list, I'm going to put Prescott. Prescott, Arizona has a population of 46,000, so it's still a little bit of a small town, and the elevation is at 5374, so about the mile high mark in elevation. Cost of living in Prescott is 114, so 14% higher than the national average. Not too bad for a mountain town. I'm thinking that might be a little bit underrepresented because of the cost of housing. The median list price in Prescott is $806,000 and the median price per square foot is $346. Now, violent crime slightly less than the national average at 20.7. Property crime slightly above at 37.2. Get an average of about 16 inches of rain, 13 inches of snow. That makes it nice because it's not, it's still a mountain town. You have a lot of ponderosa pines, but not as much snow as, say, Flagstaff, not quite as cold as Flagstaff. Average high in July, 89, average low in January, 25. But what's nice about Prescott is there are a lot of things to do, and you might even want to consider Prescott Valley, which kind of neighbors Prescott, but it's a slightly less housing prices, slightly less cost of living. But there are a lot of fun things to do in Prescott if you wanted to use this as a vacation home. There is the downtown. Prescott has all sorts of fun stuff like Whiskey Row, all sorts of like antique shops or gift shops, fun stuff to do. But then there's a lot of hiking. There's Watson Lake, which has those granite boulders, really cool. Now, exception I might say is there are some very primitive areas in the Bradshaw Mountains. There are some nice cabins, but a lot of them are very old, very primitive to get there. I'm not sure if I will ever go there to show a property again. A couple times I've gone there and almost gotten lost. I thought I was going to spend the night lost and stranded in the woods one day, and that they were going to have to send out a search party for me, because you'll look at the MLS and it'll say go 13 miles on this dirt road, and when you get to the cattle guard, make sure you make a sharp right, and the GPS is completely worthless. A lot of the homes up there may not have water or electric, but the big thing to worry about right now is because it's in the middle of the forest. I'm hearing that some of the areas you're not able to get home insurance, and if you can't get homeowners insurance, you can't get a loan. So that's something to think about. Now, I'm not saying you can't, I'm saying I heard that from one of my local lenders. So Prescott in the Bradshaw Mountains, which I'm thinking could be haunted. And also there was a fatal black bear attack there a couple of years ago. So I don't know if I'm buying a home in Prescott area. There's a lot of nice places. I would just avoid the places deep in the Bradshaw Mountains, like the Potato Patch area. So just keep that in mind. Prescott, though, a really nice area. Number 5 on my list is Mesa, Arizona, and I'm picking Mesa for a couple of reasons. One is it's very friendly for seasonal residents. There are a lot of people, what we call snowbirds, that live in Mesa in the wintertime and another state in the summertime because of the really nice climate in the wintertime. It is also kind of populated with a population of about 503,000. So the second largest populated city in my list. It is part of the Valley of the Sun. So you have a lot of that very hot weather in the summertime, but very nice weather in the wintertime. Lots of stuff to do. Go shopping, restaurants, shows, golfing, not too far from some of the local lakes and rivers. So a nice central location in Arizona where you're close to Sky Harbor Airport, and there's tons and tons of stuff to do. Now, the cost of living in Mesa is 113, so just a little bit higher than the rest of the country. Median list price is $541,000 for a home, and a price per square foot at $282, which actually seems quite good for me because I live in an expensive area. Crime, not so bad. bad in Mesa, slightly above the national average, with violent crime at 19.3 and property crime at 37.6. Not a lot of rain, about 10 inches, no snow. July high average about 105, January low about 41 degrees. The record high though in Mesa is 122. It does get quite high, and even when you see like a July high of 105, that can be a little bit misleading because there'll be many days where the temperature is over 110, like maybe 2 solid months. So it does get very hot in Mesa. And these are averages, so they're not entirely what it's going to be in July. You're not going to go out probably and have it be 105. That's the average. So, and just know that. Now the elevation Mesa just under 12, just over 1,200 foot above sea level, so you can see that's why it's so hot there, low elevation. So Mesa though, lots of stuff to do, great for seasonal residents that come to live in Arizona in the wintertime and go someplace else that's colder in the summertime. Great option, Mesa, Arizona. Okay, number 4 on my list is Payson, Arizona, and I like Payson for several reasons. One, it's a really quaint mountain town with a small population, but the reason it's on my list, besides it being a great place to have a vacation home with lots of stuff to do and really nice temperatures in the summertime, is it's got a great cost of living. Cost of living index is 92.4, which is the lowest on my list today, about 8% lower than the national average. And to buy a home in Payson, it will set you back a single family home median list price at about $579,000 with a median price per square foot of 321. Now, population Payson is quite small, 16,500, so small town. You might also want to consider the neighboring towns of Pine and Strawberry, which are just north of Payson, but Payson basically being the big draw. Crime, better than the national average. Violent crime 18.5 index, property crime 42, slightly above the national index. Rain, 22 inches of rain in Payson, averages every year. Snow 15 inches, July high temperature 90 degrees, January low 26. So you can see here that Payson is great in the summertime. It's a mountain time. There's a lot of the ponderosa pines in that area. Lots of stuff to do like hiking and exploring. There's a Walmart there, a Home Depot there, so there's stuff to do. It's not like so small that you can't find anything. Grocery stores there. Elevation just below 5,000, so again another mile high city, 4921 elevation. But Payson is a really nice town, small town, but lots to do and really nice temperatures in the summer and not so bad in the wintertime, even though they do get some snow, and it is very pretty in the winter when it snows. Number 3 on my list is Munds Park. Now, I have been watching Munds Park since I sold my cabin at Mormon Lake. I have been wanting to buy a place there for years. Munds Park is very close to Flagstaff, about 15 minutes shy of Flagstaff, but it is a much smaller town, population of about 950, so just less than 1,000. But now realize Munds Park, again, is similar to Mormon Lake, where you have a lot of part-time residents that are there for vacation or for the summer, and not a lot of full-time residents. Now, in recent years, Flagstaff has become so expensive to live that there are more people living in Munds Park that will commute to Flagstaff for their job, or just they want to live in Flagstaff, and it's a teeny bit less to live in Munds Park. So that is also a draw, about 15 minutes, like I say, south of Flagstaff. What's nice about Munds Park is if you have a vacation home there, you go straight north on Interstate 17 and then you just get off the highway and it's like right there. Whereas if you were going to Mormon Lake, say from Phoenix, you could take Interstate 17 and you have to get lost at Stoneman Lake, and then you're driving for like a half hour or 15 miles on a primitive dirt road. So Munds Park is great because it's got really easy access off of the highway. Now, the median list at Munds Park is about $699,000. Price per square foot at $416. Cost of living index 116, so just slightly above the national average. Violent crime less than the national average at 21.3. Property crime almost right at national average at 33.6. You get a lot of rain there, 24 inches a year. Snow It says 12 inches in bestplaces.net, but I am pretty sure that is wrong because Flagstaff, 50 minutes away, gets about 80 inches. So that data is wrong. That's one of maybe 2 errors I found at bestplaces.net, but snow going to be closer to 80 inches a year. July high, about 90. That's about right. January low, about 32. Probably a little bit lower than that. Probably in the 20s in January's elevation in Munds Park, about 6,600 feet above sea level. Very nice place. What's nice about Munds Park, besides that it's so close to Flagstaff and it's mountain time and you've got snow activities and you got, you can easily get on a side-by-side and go riding around. Lots of fun stuff to do. That price per square foot and the median price, that's for a cabin, but it does include, there are a lot of nice mobile homes on land, manufactured homes on land that you could get for a much better price than that. I would say like in the low 400s. You can get a mobile single wide, maybe 300,000, the pre-1976 single wide on your own land in Munds Park if you have a low budget but you're looking for a mountain town. Now, one thing to know about those is they're very hard to finance, so you may have to pay cash for that, but just, it's nice that there are options that you could buy a vacation home in Munds Park for under 400,000, even though the median list is about 700,000. Okay, number 2 on my list is Sedona, Arizona. Now, I'm going to say I'm a little bit biased. I live in Sedona. Sedona is my primary residence, but there are a lot of great things about Sedona. One is that it's a small town. Population is actually less than 10,000 at 9,739. So a very small town. There are tons of things to do here. There's hiking, there's shopping, there's museums, there's all this woo-woo stuff people tease me about that are like the new aging medical physical. The creek is absolutely gorgeous if you want to go hang out at the creek and have a picnic or swim or put your feet in the water. There's Slide Rock State Park. There's quite a few things to do. The sightseeing, the views of like Cathedral Rock or Courthouse Butte or Belt Rock. Very nice place to live in Sedona, Arizona, and also a fun place to come visit. Now, the downside with Sedona, of course, is the cost of living is extremely high. It's actually listed in bestplaces.net. They just updated it to 114, which is wrong. It's 141, which means about 41% higher cost of living in Sedona than the national average. And I'll tell you why this is, mostly because property values are so high. The median list in Sedona, I'm going to put that in the 86336 zip code, is $1.55 million, and the median price per square foot is $586 per square foot. So yeah, that's a very expensive place to live, but if you could afford it, I personally think it's worth it. I love living in Sedona, and it can be a part-time resident, it can be a vacation home, or it could even be a good investment opportunity. So I'm talking a little bit about crime. Very low crime. It has violent crime at 13.8, which is much less than the average nationally. Property crime 27, again much less than the national average crime statistics. Rain, you do get about 23 inches of rain, about 11 inches of snow every single year. It's nice though, because it maybe snows maybe 5 to 6 in a low season, maybe a dozen times in a wet winter, but it'll come in snow, it'll dust the place off, drop maybe 2 to 4 inches, and then the next day it's gone. We don't even have to plow the roads really. I don't think there's ever been a time. Now I do have a truck that I've been not able to get out of my house after the snow, even with them not plowing. So the July high temperature in Sedona is 92 degrees, but we did have a record high once of 110. It does get above 100 and it is uncomfortable when it's that hot, but when you compare it to other places like Phoenix, it's not really that bad. The January low about 32 degrees, and that does seem to be about right. Elevation in Sedona, about 4,350 feet above sea level. Now, I can tell you that where I live in the village of Oak Creek, which is on the outskirts of town in the unincorporated area, 4,000 elevation, and in West Sedona uptown it's about 45, so that's about right, which makes it an ideal climate for a place to live year-round. Now, I am biased because I live in Sedona, and I do sell a lot of houses here. If you are interested in buying a home in Sedona or Flagstaff or Prescott or Payson, again, my contact information is in the description below. Give me a call, text, email, and we can talk about that. So I am now coming to my number one pick in the state of Arizona to buy a vacation home, and that is Flagstaff. I love Flagstaff. I've lived in Flagstaff before. Interested in maybe moving to Flagstaff again at some point. Flagstaff now has a population of 76,000 residents. It is the home of Northern Arizona University. Now, I do have an MBA from NAU. I got it in the 90s. I actually lived at Mormon Lake and went to Flagstaff to go to school there. Another nice reason to buy a home in Flagstaff is because it's a college town and there's really high rental potential, very low vacancy rate. If you're thinking of combining your second home with a investment, it is a good area for that. Now, the cost of living in Flagstaff, 116, means 16% higher than the rest of the nation. Median list price in Flagstaff also quite high at $984,000. Price per square foot of $389 per square foot. Now, those are single family homes. We have eliminated condos and townhomes, and there are a lot of condos and townhomes, which are great investment opportunities in Flagstaff, but that's those prices are just for single family homes. Violent crime still below the national average in Flagstaff at 17.9. Property crime about 57. Rain, you get about 21 inches of rain, about 81 inches of snow. The July high, typically 82. I think the record high is like in the low 90s. I think it was 93, but I forgot to write it down. January low, about 14. Elevation, almost 7,000. Of course, it depends on where you are. The official is 6903 in Flagstaff. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to tell you the crime statistics, the national U.S. average. I had just the estimate at the beginning. The violent crime national average is 22.7. So anything less than that is better than the national average. The average property crime in the United States, 35.4. So again, anything below that, better than the national average. So I hope you enjoyed my list of the 10 best towns in Arizona to buy a second home. I do videos every single week about living in Arizona, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please do me a favor and give me a thumbs up, a like, and consider subscribing to the channel because I post videos every single week, and that helps other people find this information. And again, if you're thinking of moving to Arizona, and the information can be very helpful. My name is Dawn Dickenson. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Arizona. So if you ever feel like talking about buying or selling a home in Arizona, please give me a call, text, or an email. My contact information is always in the description below. I hope to see you on my next video here on this channel again next week. Have a great week.